convos at the pub. We'll wait for your intro then.
Cool. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Football for Life show with your host Wheelie and Aaron. Give us a wave, mate.
On a J.
As you guys will all notice, we're back for the first time in a while. We've been just trying to survive most of lockdown, and we have a third person with us today. So Arnie, would you like to introduce our guest?
Of course, a very special guest this afternoon. Loyal fellow Bristol City fan. Well, I say fellow because I like him, not that I follow him. We got him on the show. It's a really brief story. I'll explain to you guys how we brought Tabzzz on, all about the topic that we're discussing today. As commercial monopoly ruined the beautiful game, as we can imagine. Me and Tabzzz were obviously discussing this quite a bit, and I thought, you know what, let's bring Tabzzz on the pod. This will be a great idea for him to come out here, put his discussions forward, and then we can really build on that base because we're in a lot of agreement over many topics. A few disagreements here and there, but we always have room for that, and we will make this a constructive one. I'll start actually passing the stage over to yourself, Tabzzz. All yours. Fire away.
Blimey, what? Where do I start? I think that the bottom line is wherever there is money sloshing about, there's always greed, and I think then greed. There's a dividing line between how much greed is then captured within a small minority of people or a small elite group, and it's then how you set that group up and how that group is the membership of that group. And then you've got, if you relate that obviously to football, then you've got an elite group of say 8 or 9 teams, and there's still 84 other people, other clubs in that environment, and that's where the elitism and money drives that elitism. I think also as it progresses, the bigger the sums of money that are bandied about, the less impact it all has. What I mean by that is, if I go back to I know I'm going back a bit now, but bear with me, my age. You can see my profile, everybody. I'm not in these guys' age group.
But
if I go back to the first £1 million footballer when I was about your age or a bit younger, that was a massive impact on the game itself, headline news and all of that. But now players get transferred for 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 million. The number doesn't actually have an impact anymore. Yeah. And money just sloshes around in this environment and just starts, as I started off this little chit chat, it starts to create an elite group, which then becomes a potential danger to the whole sport or the whole whatever environment that elite group relates to.
Yeah,
literally, playing.
And that's I totally agree with you actually, and it's because then that's where like you have the sort of project big picture type stuff. You know, you have the elite group in. Well, I mean, actually, it goes into two things. It goes into the possibility of the conception of this project big picture, but then also like conversations around the European Super League. Once because again you'll have one is the elite groups within England that want increased monopoly and increased power and control over certain voting rights in terms of like how like money's distributed from television companies and streaming services and all of this. And then when you build it out into the wider sort of European Super League idea, it's the major teams from around Europe that all want this European Super League where, it's kind of done NFL style, where there's no promotion, there's no relegation, there's no sort of jeopardy about losing that huge amounts of finance, right? And so you'd have like Real Madrid play Barcelona every week, and whilst they keep all the money, they kill our enjoyment of the sport. And I guess, you know, we talk about big picture in a way, and it's like, oh my God, how horrifying would it be if they had total monopoly over everything at these big clubs? And you only need to look at Spain, right? So Spain, Barcelona and Real Madrid negotiate all of their percentages within their
that club.
the funds from the television market. So they literally have like every year they go, well, we'll have 60%, now we'll have 70, 80, etc. And it's gone up. And now, you know, La Liga is, because of the amount of impressive sort of talent in just the population, it's still competitive to a degree, but it's still a two-team league basically, with Barcelona and Real Madrid winning everything, and like Atletico being a pretender to the crown. But that's only because they've had an incredible manager.
They're literally the powerhouse of everything. Bringing it to the topic of the European Super League, which we kind of even had a discussion about this on our last season, remember, with Man Like Mo, on how the greed, like Tabzzz just mentioned, has come into it, not just in the recent years where, you know, people like me and you started watching, but way back, I'd say probably in the 90s, before the inception of the Premier League, which is where all this money came in.
Well, that was the start of it, the Premier League, wasn't it? That was a landscape changer for football in this country.
Yeah.
And I think it's what gets left behind when these elite groups are formed becomes diluted a little bit. So even if the European Super League comes into being, then what it leaves behind, whether there'll be a Premier League under its banner or not, whatever is left behind will be a diluted, competition. Just as now that Leagues 1, 2, and to a lesser degree the Championship have been drained of everything because of the Premier League sucking it out of through the veins of their own giant, if you like. And I just think it's quite sad sad for me, because I'm not massively I don't attach myself to the Premier League as a fan. I just enjoy the product, and there's a subtle difference between all of that. My fan attachment is in the Championship at the moment. Blah blah blah. So that's what gets left behind. I mean, even like the competitions that are left behind with the Premier League, the FA Cup has been completely diluted for me. I know a big team still wins it. I know a big team. I know an elite team still tends to win it. But like the draw on Monday night, the third round draw, we had early out in the piece, Marine versus Tottenham.
Yes.
Now you know that unlikely the Marine, even if fans were allowed in by then, but that would have been in pre the Premier League inception. That would have been the romantic tie of the round, if you like, with the lowest ranked side left in it versus the current league leaders. And you know that, let's go pre Premier League.
Well, this was just
that Gareth Bale would have played. You know that the Stars would have played in 1991. But as soon as the Premier League comes in and has drained us of all that, these Stars' names won't be there. Mourinho will put a side out, and why not? But he will put a side out to win the game, instead of going along the fact that what an opportunity for the occasion to be met with the star names, and it's that replicated all the way through. That's what I mean by the competition becomes diluted of its romance, really, not necessarily of its quality, because an elite side still tends to win the FA Cup at the end of the tournament, but the tournament itself has been drained of its romance and its football. You know what I'm trying to say. That I'm probably dating it a little bit. But
no, I think it's interesting, and I think it's important to sort of, because obviously this conversation is a little bit freeform, and we're not like, there are areas that we want to cover, but we're not the most regimented with this, but like I think it would be really good, certainly for those that watch our podcast or listen, that there are many of us from a certain age group that don't know anything prior to the inception of the Premier League. Like I took up my fandom within football in probably like 2007. I came very late to it because actually uniquely like my family, like they're not massive football fans. Their cousins and their brothers and stuff are all massive QPR fans, but my dad and like the ancillary members of my immediate family are just not. So I came into it quite late, but I have no idea really how the Premier League formed or why it formed could you quickly give us an overview? I mean, from what you understand, of course.
It's even 28 years ago now, isn't it? I just think that, again, it was almost like the better teams wanted their own environment and their own, not their own rule making, because football's football. It's still played with a bag of air on green grass, but they wanted a little bit more say in their own destiny, if you like. And they were, at the time, I don't know, obviously the 20 clubs, and it took a while to shuffle all that around as well to get the 20. Is it 20 now? Yeah, 20 in the
yes.
If that's the right number, I don't know. But yeah, it was just an opportunity for this group, the FA Premier League, to form their own identity and siphon off the better teams at that time. And a lot of the teams are still, obviously, the elite teams are still in that group by and large. And then the others were left floundering a little bit, and they had to just readjust their life in under the EFL. What they were left with as the EFL, and even then, all felt a bit as if, going back to the word I've probably overused, the dilution of the other three divisions was quickly identified. And the one thing out of it, everybody got promoted without doing anything, so that was quite funny. Because we all went up a division, because suddenly teams were in Division 1 of the Football League. So everybody got promoted. But that, joking aside, it was, you could just see the sort of writing was starting to be on the wall even back then. And it's a sad thing that also, I say sad, it's an unfortunate thing that teams that are in the top sector of the championship will, or perhaps not so much these days, but initially, to try and keep up with them, to try and climb that greasy pole, were overcommitting funds. They were overstating what they were just weren't in their own reality, if you like. And because the dream is still the Premier League for the top half of the championship, I suppose. But there are a lot of risk taken to be able to try and do that. Swindon Town, for instance, teams like that you would never even, Oldham Athletic, Premier League, you never quite realise that they would ever been in the Premier League. But look where they are now, desperate for their own. It wasn't a financial existence for them. It wasn't a financial saving for them. There's a lot of teams that have been in the Premier League that have wrestled with it, tried it, overstretched themselves to try and keep up with the elite group that was galloping away over in the horizon. And that's really what it still is. So in 1992, it became this target for everybody, an elite target for everybody, and now we're left with what we're left with, a lot of clubs and a lot of debt, and as I say, the life in general, not just the financial life, but the football life is being sucked out of the other three divisions. The FA Cup as an example, the League Cup almost gets dismissed by.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? Like all the conversations you see now, like when you listen to fan channels and you listen to just sort of like, I listen to Radio 5 Live a lot. It's people talk about the magic of the FA Cup, for example, and they go, oh, the third round or whatever. And I totally echo your thoughts. Like the dream the other day, right? That was for the third round. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, I can imagine that like 20 years ago that was actually really exciting. But like, you know, Man City, talking from a Premier League perspective, of course, like we knew Man City were going to get like Birmingham City because they always do. And we always we never get one of the lower teams. Like we always end up getting another Premier League team. And then but then that frustrates me because like, and it's got better over the last few years because we've actually blooded in our young talent more and we've done it in a more successful way. But we put out like second string teams.
Shrewsbury.
Pardon?
One example, when we played Shrewsbury in the replay,
Right.
in February, they were actually quite disappointed, and they tried to actually lodge a complaint saying that we're taking the occasion away from their players.
Yeah. Like if I'm Shrewsbury, I would want Liverpool to play their first team and you know have Bob from down the road play against Mo Salah, right? And that's a huge incentive because lots of people would come and flock, right? And whatever. But like, I also know as a Liverpool fan, like I wouldn't want to, and maybe that's the toxic part of this is that we wouldn't want our best players playing against these guys because they're like, because we're like, we have bigger fish to fry, and
there lies the elitism.
Exactly. It's the toxic relationship that has now been built, right? It's that idea of like, oh, well, we'll want to win at all costs, even
we
if
still want.
Huh?
You know, based on what Tabzzz was saying, we still won the game with the C team. The job still got done.
Yeah,
but I can. Yeah.
But like,
the job will get done. But the point is that the whole thing about the FA Cup is it's the one competition that we have over a lot of the other European countries that still has the likes of Marine being able to play Tottenham about 12, 15 divisions apart. That doesn't happen anywhere else. And it's just nice for it to be respected. I know it's difficult. I know the fixtures don't allow it these days, blah, and all of that. But it's just a real shame that some young lad in Marine or Liverpool, whatever Marine is going to miss out on seeing or relating to, for that 190-minute or 2-hour period, there's young, impressionable people that getting involved in football. They'll probably never have the chance to even sort of rub shoulders with the Premier League in their thoughts and environment, if they're Marine fans. And they've just got this golden little nugget of opportunity to see your Bales and your Dele Allis, and you know they won't be anywhere near the northwest of England on that cold January night. As you say, it'll be the under 23s or with a smattering of first teamers to make it feel right. But that's just lost. It just loses its edge, and yeah, they will win the game. Tottenham win the game, whatever they put out, because they'll put the right side out to win the game. But that's not the point. The point is just the whole. You
could argue, yeah.
The life is just drained out of the competition. Sorry, Aaron, go on.
No, you could argue that maybe they're saving these teams from like, I don't know, like a 10-12-0 battering. Remember what happened with which team was Burton when they played City in the, I'm still going to Mickey Mouse, not the FA Cup, obviously. I read that. That is a trophy of full significance. But the League Cup, that's the one that I'm kind of, it was in that competition. We still sweep them all over. So I can kind of see what these big clubs are thinking, right? They're like,
but it's not like, Aaron, I see your point, but it's not like, it's not the fact that they're doing it to like, out of the goodness of their heart, like, oh, you know, we will batter them like 15 or 10-0 or whatever. Like, it's the fact that they literally, it's not profitable for them to put out their best players. And then
and they are thinking, when we can win the game anyway, why risk the players, right? That is the mentality that's going on.
It's just
I get that, and I do. I stand behind that to a certain degree, but perhaps I'm going back a little bit too far in my thoughts to when the FA Cup and the draw and meant something, because you knew suddenly when the draw comes out, Liverpool, as it was in those days, one of the top teams, to a lesser degree Manchester United, because they weren't quite as consistent. Chelsea, all of that. As soon as you pick one, as soon as one of those teams come out, you can instantly have a mind's eye of the players that were going to play that in that tie. because you know that the managers and everything in that era, they would not, I don't mean respect and disrespect, but they would reflect the competition correctly. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, Liverpool get drawn out, and you might have Salah in your mind, you might have Trent Alexander, whatever his name is, you might have those, but you know that they may not play. Whereas in 20 years ago, the Liverpool team that was drawn out or whatever, Man United, you knew the players that were going to play in that match. You know, and that's all changed, and that's because of the financial magnets from elsewhere that have taken the thoughts of these clubs in different directions. And I get all of that.
Yeah.
But going back to my point and about the second point I made, it's just what the elite teams leave behind is just being completely drained of all its.
I mean, the clearest example I can think of is that famous win by Wimbledon, right? So Wimbledon come and they beat Liverpool in one of the.
Is it 89? 88.
88. Right. Yeah.
And but in that game, it was like Liverpool playing most of their first team or something. It wasn't just like a second string or academy team.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And a lot of those fans or those players still reminisce, like going, "Oh, do you remember when we beat Liverpool?" And it's become folklorish because it wasn't like they beat the Scraps or the Waifs, the Waifs and Strays. It was that they beat these big names, and I can think, like, even for the smaller teams, quote unquote, that even if they beat a Premier League team, they go, "Oh, we beat a Premier League team," but then it's no, actually, you beat their reserves.
Yeah, it's only
and
a
it
Premier
takes
League
that away as well from them.
They're only Premier League in competitions like that at the moment, or certainly the early rounds.
Yes.
It's only a Premier League in name, not substance, and that's the disappointing thing, and that's where the thing has been left a bit deflated. When these elite groups, and the same will become then if you get this European Super League.
Well, yeah.
Which probably will come in. Something's going to happen. It's not going to stay status quo. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say that on that European Super League. I mean, it would be like, well, you won't be able to have all of Liverpool play all of those games, because if it's a European Super League, you're going to have to travel from country to country to country.
Yes.
And probably they'll, in order to like really get the funds in, they'll have to go, oh well, we'll have one game playing in Dubai or Saudi Arabia or something, and so you can't have your first team playing the Premier League and this other league and or whatever other, and so you would have like a second string for the Premier League, and so it would then devalue the Premier League as well as devaluing everything else behind it.
And greed doesn't stop. So the next, well, you get the European Super League, and then you'll start getting other people getting, well, not other people, but then people will start wanting a little bit more, and something else will evolve that drains what's behind, and it's what's left behind is the key. Because the people that have got the money, so they don't.
And I think the really hard thing is for like fans, like I know. Strictly speaking, like me and Aaron are both Liverpool fans, and so we kind of live a fairly charmed life. Like, we're in the Premier League, we've got these great players, whatever. But there are values behind Liverpool as a club, and the city, that are universal in its treatment of its local community. It's what it gives back to its fans, and what the value and how it reflects the values of the fans themselves. Liverpool's a largely socialist city. And like, they're against large monopolies and like people being exploited and left behind and things. And so for like when the news came out that like, some of the teams in discussion for this Super League is and then Project Big Picture were linked to Liverpool, and I was expecting it from Man United, but it hurt as a Liverpool fan, because it was like, well, this seems very sketchy and not any way reflective of what us as fans would.
I think we all agree this one, Wheels, me, you and Tabs, I think it's safe to say that, well, I assume at the moment that we think it's a total waste of time and it's going to ruin the game more. This European Super League, as we were talking earlier.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, it will. It will. It's not something anybody. I don't think many fans would vote for it. That's the thing. Across the board, I don't think many fans would vote for it. Because you're just going to. Because as you say, the Premier League can't be functioned in the same way once you've got this other tournament that all of the travel and all of that involved. You simply can't function in the same way. So. Yeah, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but it's not.
I'm hoping it doesn't happen.
It's not a very pleasant one.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I'm hoping it doesn't happen, because if it does, that's going to be another disaster coming up for sure.
I think the worst part of it, and the reason I keep mentioning both the big picture and the Super League in conjunction with one another, is because one is being used to basically push the other closer to its existence, right? So like with the Project Big Picture, it's like, okay, so we know that all the whole of the English football is now built on a house of cards, because the finances are all like very unstable, with like parachute payments and people spending more than they actually make and all of this stuff. But then the big teams went, well, in exchange for more power, which we can later use to break away, we'll save all of the lower league teams. So yeah, so my train of thought is gone, but I think they can't. For me, they're inseparable.
Well, they should be. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Tabzzz has it all from, even before the inception of the Premier League, on how it was then as to how it is now. And even during the Premier League era, we've seen a lot of changes that have
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I never thought that Bristol City would be trading player transfer fees in the tens of millions. So, I mean, it's just something that I would never, ever, ever thought that would happen. You can't see it. When I was 15, in 1977, when we went into what was then the first division, playing the top Liverpool side, the top Nottingham Forest side, all of that, I never thought that the product would evolve where even the likes of Bristol City would be selling players for 14, 15 million, and even contemplating buying players for anywhere near that amount of money. And that's why I'm saying that the first £1 million player was Trevor Francis. You may or may not have heard of him.
Yeah. I have.
And that was an impact, as I said earlier. And now that the impact of the tens of millions goes, because it's just, we can't quantify it, just gone. And when they're talking about £200 and £300 million players, it doesn't. The impact isn't there anymore.
Yeah, it's not like there's a shock value there, but like that's the only thing that's there. Like, yeah, like I remember like the really big one that I got shocked at, and maybe it feels really recent, but it was with Gareth Bale and his transfer to Real Madrid for what was it?
It was something crazy, 100, I think. Was it
89 million?
89. There we go. And I remember, like, just I was like, at this, like, I didn't particularly thought of Bale as this world beater. Like, he was great when he moved, but like, he had only had he had a meteoric rise for 2 seasons or whatever. I was like really, really shocked. And I was just like, well, now there is literally no limits on what you can say as like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, like Crystal Palace now have set a precedent. And they're gone, well, he was 55 million or
exactly.
Maguire, who is basically a fridge.
and there lies another point for another day, maybe, but that reflect everybody when somebody moves to 89 million or 189 million, whatever the latest top of the range fee is, everybody down the tree, down to the one-legged paper hangers, they become have an inflated fee placed on the head for doing absolutely nothing, and that's how that again has a negative effect in a different direction, if you like, because it almost gives players a complete sort of fabrication of what they're worth, all the way down, right down to the League One and League Two. It has a real impact right down to that level, because players are suddenly got this inflated. A, they've got an inflated ego because they must be worth something more than they should be, and B, they've got an inflated price tag. And that's all because these players move for this amount of money, creating the wave of the falseness all the way down. Really, that's how I look at it. But that's a point for another day, maybe.
Yeah, talking of time for another day. I think unfortunately I'm not working with an institution, so my Zoom only has 5 minutes left of it.
Right, okay.
so just to give everyone, just to like segue in that little thing. I think there's a lot that we can talk about, and I think we've already discussed quite a lot. I think it is interesting to see where things will go.
Man, I hope I haven't come across as being negative about the Premier League or the football of the current era, because I'm not negative about it at all. I enjoy the product and I subscribe to it to watch it.
I mean, actually, if there's anything, I'm starting to feel very disillusioned with the game. No, I genuinely mean it. I mean, the stuff with VAR, the stuff with some of the silly offside calls, I mean, not even from like a partisan point of view, like, and we can do another discussion and just plan it out, and so we know that we're going through different things at different points.
Yeah.
But
in depth. We're definitely gonna have that.
Like with there's just so much, like the fact that like tackling has basically gone out of the window. VAR makes no sense. The fact that there's like, it's almost like we were hesitant to get the system in, and now we're doing everything we can to sabotage it, to say, oh, look, here we go, it's awful, and then bin it, when the rest of Europe sort of have, and the Champions League have a much better way of it. Like, there's just, and then obviously there's the fact that, yes, we're in a pandemic, but the fact that like this extra £15 payment for certain games, and I think they're ending it, but
yeah, they are. Yeah,
they were trying to. I think part of that was trying to see how long they could go with getting money out of fans to not have them in the stadiums eventually.
Having said that, you might be surprised to know that I would be quite happy to pay 10 quid to watch Bristol City, which is what I have to pay if I want to. But I'm quite happy to pay that if I choose to, because I got the choice. I haven't got a season ticket that I think, oh God, I bought the season ticket, and now I've probably got to go because I want my money's worth. I don't live in Bristol, as you probably know. I don't live near Bristol, near enough.
Right.
But I'm quite happy to pay a tenner every now and again to, I'll watch Bristol City versus West Brom next week, and I'll pay my tenner. So I'm not actually against the ad hoc payment to fund that slice of entertainment, which is a modern day thing I probably never thought I would say. But but with all the money in the Premier League, to charge 15 quid and you knew that it was the games that weren't going to be on main Sky, so it was going to be, no disrespect to any of these teams, it was going to be Aston Villa versus, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it was like Sheffield United versus Burnley, or one of them, wasn't it?
It's going to be the dregs that people would want to turn off anyway. Never mind about pay 15 quid for. But that's the way it was. But you're right, Hayden. I think they are discontinuing it.
We just want to take this opportunity, obviously, saving the best for the last, to thank you, Tabzzz, for your time.
Yeah.
And expertise analysis on coming on the show.
Well, that's all right. As I say, I hope I haven't sounded. I feel I might have been a bit negative about the current product, but I'm not saying it was better in my day. In my day of active supporting, it wasn't better. It was just different, and there was just a better feel about the sort of family of the top clubs and the rest were closer together and closer knit, and a much more feeling of a football community. We haven't got that these days, but that's the good or the bad is for others to decide.
Yeah, and I think actually just now that I'm seeing this timer and we've got 2 minutes left, and I'm like trying to sum this up really quickly.
Okay, I'll shut up.
No,
let me just quickly
less
say,
than a minute. Right.
it's more of I think it's more of a precaution as to what can happen if this European Super League goes ahead. I think that's the main point of this discussion. But yeah, go on. You're gonna say.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been really good to have a third voice
Definitely.
and a means to discuss these issues.
Good. Yeah, fine. Yeah, if you want to do it again, that's fine.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
We're definitely gonna have
We'll have to get you on soon. I'll take care, everybody, because I think we have like 30 seconds left. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Let's go see the rep Tabzzz. Boy.
See you later, guys. Nice to meet you. Hey, cheers.
Likewise. See you soon.
Hope you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.